Top Gun Maverick has been tearing up the box office all week long, and it doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon, especially this second weekend, which is about to set an astonishing record for a second weekend on a film like this. And Tom Cruise himself is looking to head home with a $50 million plus personal payday from this film. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this one. Here we go. Renegade Online. Well, welcome back, folks. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there again, and if you are like one of the many folks that are not yet subscribed to this channel, please do take a moment. If you're watching this video, hit that little red subscribe button right below this screen, hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, as always, do leave a comment before you head out the door today. We have a good bit to talk about. I'm going to bring you some news about Tom Cruise and what his personal payday is and why that is on this movie. Something I hinted at before that I don't think anybody else on YouTube is talking about. So you're going to get a little bit of a unique perspective here because we have a great piece that we're going to cover in just a little bit from Puck Magazine and our buddy over there, Matthew Belloni, former editor of The Hollywood Reporter. But before we do, we want to get into the actual box office numbers coming into this weekend for Top Gun Maverick because they are nothing short of incredible. So normally here on Valiant Renegade, you guys see me talk about the numbers quite a bit. This is a great website to look at movie aggregates, their performance. Unfortunately, sometimes the numbers does lag a little bit behind the data collection from other places like Box Office Mojo, and that's the case right now here. As you can see, the international box office still shows on the numbers at $124 million outside of the US and Canada, but that's not really what's going on. If we flip over here to Box Office Mojo from IMDb Pro, what you're going to find out actually is the real numbers right now internationally stand at 204. They have more up-to-date information. So right now, through Thursday and Friday, this movie stands at about 435 million worldwide. And they've already projected this movie will break the $500 million mark sometime this weekend, likely today on Saturday as I record this, if not by Sunday by the time you're seeing this video. Now, you've seen us talk about this in previous videos with Top Gun Maverick's ridiculously high 97% critic score, 99% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, normally, I don't much care for Rotten Tomatoes, but when you have an anomaly like this, it's something definitely to take note of. Typically, action films like this do not get this kind of attention from both critics and fans in such a high degree of positive correlation. And what that has translated into has been an astonishingly high hold on the box office. Look at these numbers. If we look back to May 26th, last week on the Thursday previews, Top Gun hauled in $19.3 million. On Friday, which included the Thursday previews, $52 million. If we back that $19 million out of there, we wind up with about $39 million. On May 28th, $38 million. Sunday, May 29th, $36 million. And look at the weekday holds. Now, granted, Monday was Memorial Day, a federal holiday here in the U.S., so we have a larger than average box office haul for a picture like this, but it still held on well. Look at the Tuesday at $15 million, Wednesday 14.8, and Thursday 14.4, and we've already got an estimated, at this point on Saturday afternoon, of $25 million in the till for the Friday, the second Friday on June 3rd. That is just a little bit behind the actual real-time Friday performance from May 27th, which again, we said was about $39 million. That's a really strong hold going into a second weekend. The astonishing thing is this. As of right now, Top Gun Maverick is projected to have a paltry 35% drop from its opening weekend into its second weekend. The estimates continue to rise. Box Office Pro had a range of between 65 and 82 million for this weekend. Initially, Deadline Magazine was projecting a $50 million weekend, which would still be phenomenal for Top Gun Maverick. But at this point, Deadline Magazine has now pulled it up to 85 million, coming right in line with the high end of Box Office Pro. And if Top Gun Maverick actually pulls that off, it will be mind-blowing. But as it stands right now, it looks like that's actually going to happen. With a $25 million Friday, you would also have to assume a roughly similar Sunday, as that tends to bear out historically. That's $50 million right there. And if we assume a roughly $30 million Saturday today, well, that's $80 million. It's unbelievable right now what this movie is doing, and I still can't get over it. And you've seen us talk on this channel before about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and how poorly it performed after its opening weekend. So let's take a moment to put those numbers side by side and see exactly what we're talking about. So here back at the numbers, and this is only for domestic haul. So of course, we don't need to worry about the lag the numbers has on the international data. But here we are, Top Gun Maverick versus Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And if we go down here, I want you to look at the graph real quick. This graph indicates performance over time. The red line is Top Gun Maverick. The blue line is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And I want you to look. Now, of course, Doctor Strange had an incredible opening weekend. Here we go on day 3. That is the Sunday. That is through Sunday at $187.42 million in the U.S. and Canada. If we go down here at the same point, through that same 3-day weekend for Top Gun Maverick, $126.7 million, a difference of almost $60 million. Or in other words, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness outperformed Top Gun by almost 50% in the domestic haul on its opening weekend. But look what happens after that. Day 4, look at the catch-up, $201 million, and now $160 million. Again, you had that Memorial Day Monday holiday, but now it's only behind by about $40 million instead of $60. And then look what happens. 176 to 213. The gap continues to close. Day 7, 205 to day 7's Doctor Strange of 230. We're only $25 million behind. And after the second Friday, 230 to 247, now only $17 million to $18 million behind Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, before I go any further, I want to harken back to something that I've said in previous videos on Top Gun and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. There could not be a more clear and distinct dichotomy of movies here when it comes to audience reaction. And this is why legs are so important on films, as we've talked about before. How movies perform compared to their opening weekend after the opening weekend has concluded. How much more money does that movie make over time past its opening weekend compared to those first 3 days? So again, what we're seeing here right now with Top Gun is it's growing a much, much stronger set of legs. And you've heard me talk about before that Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness has been limping along, trying to break that 2x margin of $187 million from its opening weekend to its $375 million 2x point. Let's look at how long it's taken Doctor Strange to achieve that, because Top Gun is already there. So let's go back to the detailed chart here from the numbers. And if we look at Top Gun Maverick after its opening weekend, there we are, 126 versus 187 on Doctor Strange. These movies released 3 weekends apart. And we look at what happens on the next few days. Now, again, give Doctor Strange some forgiveness for its first Monday, as that movie did not release on a federal holiday where ticket sales at movie theaters were artificially boosted by so many more people being available to go see a film. But that being said, $13 million coming off of a $187 million weekend is a steep drop-off, and one that is frankly very bad, even with not having a holiday weekend. And then the big surprise, if you remember me saying at that point, that Tuesday, that first Tuesday for Doctor Strange, came in lower than the first Monday. And that first Monday was not a holiday Monday. And Tuesdays are discount days at theaters. Tuesdays usually have higher returns than their first Monday counterparts just because of the discount tickets. But that didn't happen in the case of Doctor Strange. It did happen in the case of Top Gun Maverick, but again, we can account for that with that first Monday being a federal holiday, Memorial Day Monday. But look at the hold. 15.8 million on the first Tuesday, 14.8 on the first Wednesday, 14.6 on the first Thursday. Look at what happened with Doctor Strange during that same first week. 15 million compared to 12 million, 14.8 million compared to 9, 14.4 compared to 8, and on the second Friday, 25 million estimated, which I promise you that's probably going to go up a little bit, compared to 17 million of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, if you remember the review, or go back and watch the review I did of Doctor Strange and their box office returns on that second weekend, I told you something that was very striking was a very, very steep drop-off of almost 70%. I think the actual figure was about 67 to 68% from its first weekend, signaling the fact that Doctor Strange really did not please audiences. The return business wasn't coming in. It was heavily front-loaded, and the word of mouth was, at best, mixed. That's not been the case with Top Gun Maverick. That's one thing for sure. And if we continue to look down, remember what I said, Doctor Strange's 2x set of legs from its $187 million opening weekend right here needed to be double that point. That's what 2x means in a set of legs. And look at how long it's taken it to get there. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness did not break that point until between the fourth Monday and the fourth Tuesday. Top Gun, on the other hand, whose opening weekend was $126 million, only needs to breach the $251 to $252 million mark, which they are slated to do today, Saturday, as I record this, meaning that Top Gun Maverick has pulled off the 2x set of legs within about 8 days. Now, once again, as a reminder, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is still doing overall comparably well at the box office, although certainly not as well as the Walt Disney Company and Marvel Studios would have hoped, considering the massive opening weekend that it had globally that was north of $450 million. If it had performed like Top Gun, this movie right now should be closer to about 1.2 to 1.3 billion globally. And as I've said before, at this point, given the sharp collapse in the box office interest after opening weekend, this movie is probably not even going to make it to the coveted $1 billion mark that Disney was hoping for, because another set of news came out today. This from CNET. When is Doctor Strange dropping on Disney+? Well, if you remember, the Walt Disney Company did not pre-announce when this movie was going to land on their streaming service in an effort to drive more people into the theaters. And as that has not worked out quite the way they had hoped, they have now officially stated the wait for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness to hit Disney+ is nearly over. It was announced on Thursday that Doctor Strange, starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Elizabeth Olsen, will be available on Disney Plus on June 22nd. What does that mean? It means that even after releasing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness on May 6th, Disney still has cowered and caved into going back to a 45-day window before releasing it on Disney Plus. If this movie had performed like Top Gun in terms of a set of legs compared to its opening weekend versus the Doctor Strange collapse that we got into weekend 2 at nearly 70%, I promise you that Disney would not have slated this to come out on June 22nd. They would have let this thing run out. And that's one of the big differences with Top Gun and the power of stardom that Tom Cruise still has. And let's talk about his payday on this and why it is. The Tom Cruise back-end anomaly. This comes to us from Matthew Belloni at Puck. And if you're not subscribed to Puck, I would encourage anybody who's very seriously interested in this type of inside Hollywood kind of information to go check them out. The site is behind a paywall, but I promise you they do good work. And if this is something that interests you, this is definitely well worth the money. From the article from Puck from Matthew Belloni, who again is a tremendous Hollywood insider, former editor of The Hollywood Reporter. In fact, he's a guy that recently picked up the phone to call former Disney studio chairman Alan Horn to find out if he would be returning to Warner Brothers soon. You can read Puck to find out what the answer to that was. But as far as this article goes, it goes to show a lot of the things that I have been talking about on this channel for quite some time. Let's read through this real quick. With a not astronomical production budget of $172.5 million and a print and advertising spend of more than $150 million, Paramount's break-even number on Top Gun Maverick is about $410 million, according to Matthew Belloni's inside studio sources. Not bad these days, says Belloni. Domestic theater owners are giving Maverick 4,735 screens, topping 2019's The Lion King for the most ever. And Cruise just capped an over-the-top and amazingly controversy-free PR tour straight out of 1995. If the $200 million global opening weekend tracking is accurate, the studio will likely make real money on this thing. Paramount declined to officially comment on any numbers that I'm revealing today. So let's stop right there and talk about a few key points. With a $170+ million budget, again, the marketing spend on this film was about $150 million. What do I keep talking about with these big budget things like Marvel and stuff like this? These big action movies where they have $200 million budgets. This old adage of spending $75 or $100 million in marketing is clearly out the window, and it has been for some time. In fact, like we've talked about before, Spider-Man No Way Home, with a $200 million production budget, spent almost $250 million with global marketing for that film. That was a high cost to Sony, but because it was a great movie with huge word of mouth, it got them a high return. This is what's helping out Top Gun Maverick right now, and Disney's probably wishing it could say the same. But also from the article, we know that Tom Cruise got about $12.5 million up front. But this is the thing that is so unique about Tom Cruise, and here it is. And this is according to Matt Belloni's inside sources at Paramount Studios and Skydance. He'll earn more than 10% of first dollar gross, with escalators that increase the percentage as the movie makes more money. Remember, that's a dime for every dollar that Paramount takes in, not the total box office collected by the theaters. Studios generally negotiate for a little more than 50% of domestic revenue. Disney, with its market power, can get a little more. A little less than 50% comes in internationally. And what have I been telling you here on Valiant Renegade? Is that domestic hauls back to the studio usually come in at around 55%. And while I agree with Mr. Belloni on the sense that Disney has historically been able to negotiate a little bit more, I highly doubt that they are getting that little bit more right now in the post-pandemic era. Because number one, they've been dropping their movies either concurrently on Disney Plus with theatrical releases, or they have been limiting their theatrical releases to a strict 45-day window, or more importantly, the movies they've put out since the post-pandemic era began have frankly not performed anywhere near what they were with Disney prior to that pandemic. Now, these back-end or residual deals that we've referred to in the past often come in what they call net points, meaning that movie studios will take their revenues or distributors will take their revenues from the theatrical exhibitioners like AMC or Regal or Cinemark or Marcus Theaters, and whatever they get in, they net out all of their cost reimbursement, production cost, advertising, and whatever profit is left over is what is shared with people like the lead actors, perhaps, if they are in a position to negotiate for those kind of points, the producer, the director, things along those lines. But Tom Cruise is getting gross points, meaning that the gross revenue coming in before any deductions are made for expense reimbursement by the studio or distributor is what goes to Cruise. And what they say in this article, what Matthew Belloni has been able to pull out of his sources at Paramount and Skydance, is that Tom Cruise was able to negotiate something north of 10% with escalators the better this movie does. Meaning, in other words, in addition to his nearly $13 million paycheck up front to do this film, if right now Paramount meets their goal of getting $410 million in from the theatrical exhibitioners, some of the first dollars of that are going to go to pay Tom Cruise and Skydance. And that is going to put Tom Cruise in a position to make roughly $40 million from that point. That means that if the total box office haul exceeds roughly $810 to $820 million, which at this point it looks like it will, given all the information we just shared with you, that means that Tom Cruise is going to walk home with a $50 to $60 million payday to start. And what I mean by to start is he also has deals on the ancillary distribution post-theatrical, meaning if it goes to Paramount Plus, they have to pay them. If they sell it out to a Warner Brother or HBO Max, or if they sell it out to another streaming service, if they put it on a cable channel, it doesn't matter. Blu-ray and DVD sales, Tom Cruise gets gross point pieces on all of that revenue. This article actually goes on to say that Matthew Belloni pressed the issue, and he found out that a 9-figure payday for Tom Cruise is certainly in the conversation for Top Gun Maverick, meaning that Tom Cruise, once all said and done and all post-theatrical distribution comes into play, he could be walking home with over $100 million from this film. And they're also talking about making more, turning this into a franchise. Something very exciting. So I hope you got to see the movie, and if you haven't, I would suggest that you do. I've seen it twice, and I might go back and see it a third time. It was fantastic. But let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. It's good to see everybody out there, and until next time, take care.